Hi, my name's Garrett. I took too many drugs once. I just picked all the acne off my face. I popped every pimple, and I am a pimp. So today, oh wait, we can't start yet. Wait for it. Oh, did you hear the starter pistol? All right, now we can begin. We need a little bit of a backstory. If you could just sit down and listen for a few seconds, and then we'll get to the drugs. Okay, we're gonna get to the drugs, you just wait, okay? Anyway, so yes, during my first foot surgery, I had a catheter put in to paralyze my leg. That was a bit excessive. I don't know, man. By the way, this was a teaching hospital. They were like students, and they put me down on this table in this room. They had me turn onto my side. Now, keep in mind, right, my back door completely bare. Okay, I am butt naked under this gown because they told me to be. You know, also given the fact that these people were like, you know, they're not super old. These people are in like medical school in there. So I was a little embarrassed. But not that much because I mean, what a treat for them. They start painting my leg with that sterilizing stuff, orange stuff. They gotta butter you up. So then they're like, okay, we're gonna put the tube in your leg. So they put it in, and guess what? That hurt really bad. They're putting it in. The guy, kind of handsome guy, not gonna lie. This was many years ago, but that's one of the most, I remember that. I can, hey, you know. And he's like moving it around all up in there. I'm holding the nurse's hand because she offered. I think some snot just came out of my nose there. And then my mom comes in afterwards. They come and get my mom I think it was like just to see me before surgery. The lady's like, do you want to see what we did? You want to see what we stuck in the leg of your daughter? My mom's like, okay. And I'm like, Mom, no! You know. Because I'm like, Mom, my butt is completely exposed, you know, and but anyway, they go and look at my back door, but it's in my leg. But by the way, why couldn't they have covered up my butt? The tube that they put in my leg was only like slightly above my knee. Anyway, so my leg is paralyzed at that point from above the knee downwards. You could have cut off my leg, wouldn't have noticed. You know, I might have noticed from the extreme blood loss because I think that's something that happened. So then I had this tube stuck in my leg for weeks. I had to carry around this IV bag with me all the time. Oh, I also got very sick on the way home because, you know, this probably wasn't a great idea, but right after surgery, I did get a concrete mixer from Culver's. But I was thinking, hey, I just had a surgery, why not get a little sweet drink? But that's not what my body wanted. I did throw that up. So yeah, then I was in a wheelchair for weeks and weeks and weeks and maybe even months. I'm not even sure. But for example, if you're gonna get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, it's not even just as simple as like, well, just use a wheelchair. Hey, buddy. You know, hey bud, you trying to get into a wheelchair from your tall bed when you can't feel your leg, you just gotta kind of throw yourself off your bed and hope you land in the chair, because you're not gonna, trying to get down the bed and on one leg and the other leg, you have to lift it up and like hold your whole leg with your arms. Whip it over, and legs aren't light. Throw yourself into the wheelchair, and then I would wheelchair myself into the bathroom. Wheelchairing on carpet, not easy either. You would sit down on the toilet, but also when I was on crutches, that was maybe even harder, because then, a little fun test you can do right now. Sit down on the ground for me, and get up on one leg. But not only do that, lift up your leg while you're standing up on one leg. So we had this little, like, railing thing on the side with, like, towels and whatever, and sometimes I would grab that. Thing is, with that, it was completely unstable, so every time that I would grab it, I would fall to the ground and completely break off. I only did that 2 times. After the first time, then my dad's like, you can't do that. And I was like, yeah, thank you, I got that. But I did do it again. Hey, you know. So then once the liquid all runs out of your IV bag, you have to take it out immediately. What happens if you don't take it out immediately? I don't know. You probably would spontaneously I don't really know. So anyway, the bag started beeping at like 4 a.m. So I had to wake up my mom because she had to be the one to take it out. I don't know exactly why. They like showed her when I was in surgery. They're like, this is how you do it. They also showed her during surgery because I had the tube in my leg. There was something with the medication that you can't take blood thinners. But obviously you have to be on blood thinners after surgery so you don't die. They told me that I couldn't leave my bed for, it was like multiple weeks. Couldn't leave my bed except to take a piss. Like a little while. And to take a shit. So my mom had to be taught to give me heparin shots in my stomach. So she had to practice on an orange. I had to have heparin shots multiple times a day for a very long time. And the thing with that, I would panic. Oh, would I panic? And it wasn't necessarily because of like the shots. You know, I don't like shots as much as the next person, but usually when I get shots like in the arm or something, it's just like, it's gonna take like 2 seconds and then they're done with it. But this time I was a little bit nervous because it was my mom, who has no medical experience, just like stabbing me right in the stomach. And I'm like, well, what if she just punctures my intestines? And every time she would do it, it would hurt a lot, and I didn't want that. So then we actually called them and we're like, hey, so do I could just like not do this anymore? And they're like, no, you have to do it or you might die. Oh, okay, maybe, okay. Did I take all of the heparin shots? No, I did not. Yeah, that's like, oh no, that's gonna be a no. I didn't take all of those, but anyway, so then at 4 a.m. when it was time to take the tube out, then my mom came to my room and then she took the tube out. That didn't even hurt at all. It just felt a little weird. But every time, you know what I could feel? Around every 30 seconds, the pump that was connected to the bag, connected to my leg, it would squeeze, it would it would send the liquid into my leg through the tube. So every 30 seconds, it would make a noise. It would be like, you know, or something like that. It would send it in my leg. I could feel it every single time because guess what? That liquid was cold. And it was like, whoo. And so that prevented me from sleeping a lot. Anyway, so then I'm moving on to the next surgery. This is when we get into the drugs. So during the next surgery, they're like, would you like a nerve block? And I was like, oh no. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, that's gonna be similar to a catheter. Or it is a catheter, I don't know. Hey buddy, I don't want that. I don't know why I was thinking that. The way that they said it was literally, it sounded like it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you can get this if you want to. Like, it's just kind of something, you know, just a little bit of an extra kind of pain thing. I don't know. So I didn't have that. I had the surgery and I woke up in a lot of pain. So they start giving me pain medication. They give me more and they give me more. I'm just knocking them back. They keep giving me pills. Do I know what these pills are? Absolutely not. I don't give a flying fladoodle. They didn't help even a little bit. They keep giving me more. And then I hear from the nurse's station, because they're like right there, they were like, is it usual for someone to refuse a nerve block? The other nurse is like, no, I don't think I've ever heard of that. Oh, okay. I didn't know what a nerve block was. Otherwise, I would have gotten one. So basically, what happened was, before I was awake, they didn't give me any pain medication. They didn't give me any kind of thing to numb the area. I went under the surgery, woke up, and it was like they just had cut open my foot, and they cut the ligaments and stuff, and all of that other stuff, and they were scraping things in there, and then I woke up. There was no kind of numbing. It was literally like they were just digging in there, scraping and cutting stuff, and then I woke up. And that's why people get nerve blocks, is what I learned. They're like, we're not really supposed to be giving you this amount of pain medication. I was just like, okay, but can I have a little more? So they're giving me more, and then they're like, don't tell anyone about this. We're getting ready to go home. They put me in a wheelchair, and they send me on off. So then I get home. I was feeling it fine in terms of like the pain in my foot now, but then I started to feel a little weird, a little funky, getting a little bit of pain in my stomach. And it starts increasingly getting worse and worse. And then after a little, I'm like, I really don't feel good. We're trying to get a hold of people, trying to get a hold of like anyone who might know anything about it. Like, we're not calling like emergency services at that time. But anyway, it's just getting worse and worse, and I'm getting like, I want to puke. Then I'm like, we gotta go to the hospital. I go at a speed of about 0.2 miles an hour. We get in the car. I'm trying to make myself vomit. And this was Oxy. We get to the hospital, and I remember there was this guy. It was like a cop that came out, and he helped me into the wheelchair. Anyway, this was in November, so this was flu season. It was packed in there. Because it was so packed, they're like, we're actually gonna get you into the pediatric department, because I was still technically a child, so I could still go there, because it was much less of a wait. The nurse that came out, she's like, well, look at you. I probably looked ridiculous because from my foot to my knee was like all wrapped up, and I was in a wheelchair. I was in my jammies. Which probably had some kind of cartoons on them. And I'm like bawling, basically. They wheel me back into a room. Then a doctor comes in, she's asking questions about the surgery and stuff, and so like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I have no idea what the plan was. No idea what they were gonna do. They leave, and I start vomiting my guts out. Then we're getting to the point where like this bag is like getting full of vomit. And so then we grab another bag, and I'm like, no! Hey! Because for some reason while this was happening, I'm like, they're not gonna believe me. But my mom's trying to give me a different bag. I'm like, no! But anyway, she took it and then she gave me a new bag and threw the one with the vomit in the garbage. And so they come back in and I was like, I threw up, I swear. I don't know why in my mind I'm like, they're not gonna believe me. They're gonna think that I'm lying. Good look at the garbage right here. You wanna see my throw up? But she didn't. They put an IV in my arm and then they the fun starts. They start injecting me full of this stuff. And let me tell you, I've never felt more fantastic. That stuff was wonderful. I felt so calm and I was like but it was like super difficult to keep my eyes open. Like it made me like but it was, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. Anyway, so then I was like feeling better, but I don't think it had anything to do with whatever they gave me. I think it was just because I threw up like all I don't really know why that would help me, because you would think that the drugs, even throwing it up at that point, it was like hours later. So I don't really know how that helped, but so anyway, they keep me on that stuff for hours into the early morning. They come back and they're like, you feeling better? And I was like, guys, I am feeling fantastic. If you just want to give me a little bit in a to-go bag. They didn't do that though. The cop was still there. He was still there into the wee hours of the early morning. And he was like, you feeling better? You're looking a lot better. And I was like, sir, I am feeling amazing. Guess what? During my third surgery, I did get a nerve block. It didn't feel good. But the nerve blocks only lasted about a couple of days. When I had the catheter put in my leg, it was probably up until at least 2 years until I gained pretty much full feeling back in my leg, which, like I said, there's still a little bit of my foot that I can't feel. That's not from the catheter. I have it put on my medical history now that I am allergic to Oxycodone. Which, am I allergic to Oxycodone? No, I am not. It was just the amount that I was taking. I think I might have even taken it during my first surgery. In my third surgery, then they gave me a wristband that was red and it said allergy on it, for just in case people so yeah, every time that I go to the doctor now, they ask me, they're like, and allergies still the Oxycodone? I was just like, yes. But the first time that they asked me about that, I was just like, but I don't do drugs. It wasn't because I didn't take drugs or anything. I was from a surgery. And she's like, well, I didn't think that you did drugs. I just have to ask. Oh, that's right. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that was that. Okay, bye.